The Bible, though centered on the Middle East, occasionally alludes to regions beyond its immediate geographical focus. One such region that sparks curiosity is India. While direct mentions of India are sparse, there are subtle references that point to interactions with the Indian subcontinent. These references can be seen through trade, the spread of culture, and the exchange of goods, showcasing the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations. The most notable indirect reference to India in the Bible can be found in the account of King Solomon. 1 Kings 10:22 describes how Solomon's fleet brought back gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks every 3 years. The mention of peacocks in particular is intriguing as these birds are native to India, suggesting trade links between Solomon's kingdom and the Indian subcontinent. Another significant reference is found in the Book of Esther, which mentions the vastness of King Xerxes' empire. Esther 1:1 describes his reign over 127 provinces stretching from India to Kush. This broad expanse indicates the extent of Persian influence, which included parts of northwestern India. The mention of India highlights the reach and significance of this ancient civilization within the biblical narrative. The ancient trade routes, such as the Silk Road, facilitated the exchange of goods, ideas, and culture between distant lands, including India and the biblical regions. Spices, textiles, and precious stones from India were highly prized in the ancient world. These trade interactions are indirectly reflected in biblical accounts of wealth and luxury, underscoring India's contribution to global commerce. The historical context of India in the Bible is further enriched by the journeys of the Apostle Thomas. Christian tradition holds that Thomas traveled to India to spread the gospel, establishing some of the earliest Christian communities. This tradition, though not explicitly detailed in the Bible, signifies the early connection between Christianity and India, highlighting the subcontinent's role in the spread of the Christian faith. In addition to historical references, the influence of Indian culture can be seen in the wisdom literature of the Bible. The Book of Proverbs, with its emphasis on practical wisdom and moral instruction, bears similarities to ancient Indian texts like the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. These parallels suggest a shared pursuit of ethical living and spiritual understanding across different cultures. The Bible's indirect references to India also extend to the natural world. The mention of spices like cinnamon and cassia in Exodus 30:23 hints at the trade connections between biblical regions and India. These spices, integral to religious rituals and daily life, were imported from India, demonstrating the far-reaching impact of Indian goods on ancient societies. The Song of Solomon, a poetic book celebrating love and beauty, contains imagery that evokes the richness of India's flora and fauna. The descriptions of exotic plants, fragrances, and precious stones resonate with the luxurious offerings of India, subtly weaving the subcontinent into the fabric of biblical poetry. Moreover, the concept of wisdom and its personification in the Bible echoes the philosophical traditions of India. The portrayal of wisdom as a divine attribute in Proverbs aligns with the Indian notion of wisdom as a path to spiritual enlightenment, suggesting a universal quest for knowledge and truth. The historical interactions between the biblical world and India are further evidenced by the exchange of languages and scripts. The influence of ancient Indian languages like Sanskrit on Semitic languages reflects a cultural exchange that enriched both regions. This linguistic interplay underscores the deep-rooted connections between India and the biblical lands. India's significance in the Bible is not limited to trade and culture, but also extends to the realm of prophecy. Some biblical scholars interpret certain prophecies as referencing India's future role in the unfolding of divine plans. These interpretations, though speculative, highlight the enduring interest in India's place within the biblical worldview. The presence of Indian elements in the Bible, though subtle, reveals the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations. The exchange of goods, ideas, and culture between India and the biblical world contributed to the richness of both traditions, fostering a shared heritage that continues to inspire modern readers. India's spiritual heritage also finds echoes in the Bible's emphasis on meditation, prayer, and contemplation. The practice of seeking divine guidance through silent reflection, common in Indian spiritual traditions, resonates with the biblical call to meditate on God's word day and night. The moral teachings of the Bible, with their focus on justice, compassion, and humility, parallel the ethical principles found in Indian scriptures. This shared moral vision underscores the universal nature of human values, transcending cultural and religious boundaries. The influence of Indian art and architecture can also be traced in the biblical descriptions of temple design and ornamentation. The intricate craftsmanship and attention to detail in Solomon's temple reflect a shared appreciation for beauty and sacred space, akin to the grandeur of Indian temples. The Bible's portrayal of divine wisdom as a guiding light for humanity resonates with the Indian concept of dharma, the moral law governing individual conduct. This alignment of spiritual principles highlights the common threads that bind diverse religious traditions. India's contributions to the biblical narrative, though often indirect, are significant in understanding the global context of the ancient world. The interactions between India and the biblical regions enrich both cultures, leaving a legacy of shared knowledge and spiritual insight. The biblical emphasis on the unity of humanity and the interconnectedness of all creation finds a parallel in the Indian philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which envisions the world as one family. This shared vision of global harmony reflects the universal message of the Bible. The Bible's depiction of the wise men from the East, who came to worship the newborn Jesus, has led some scholars to speculate about their possible Indian origin. This interpretation, while not definitive, suggests the far-reaching influence of India's spiritual traditions on the biblical narrative. India's role in the spread of Christianity is further underscored by the influence of Indian converts in early Christian communities. The establishment of churches and the spread of Christian teachings in India contributed to the global growth of the faith, highlighting the subcontinent's significant role in Christian history. The integration of Indian philosophical concepts into Christian theology has also been a subject of scholarly interest. The synthesis of Indian and biblical thought has enriched theological discourse, fostering a deeper understanding of spiritual truths and the universality of religious experiences. The Bible's acknowledgement of India's contributions to the ancient world, though subtle, reflects the interconnectedness of human history. The shared cultural, spiritual, and intellectual heritage between India and the biblical lands underscores the universal quest for meaning, truth, and divine connection. India's cultural influence is also apparent in the biblical focus on hospitality and community living. The Indian tradition of Atithi Devo Bhava, which means the guest is God, resonates with the biblical injunction to show kindness and hospitality to strangers, reflecting shared values of compassion and generosity. The emphasis on music and dance in both Indian culture and biblical worship highlights another area of cultural convergence. The use of music as a form of divine worship in the Psalms mirrors the rich musical traditions of India, where devotional songs and dances are integral to spiritual practice. India's ancient medical practices, known as Ayurveda, find echoes in the Bible's references to healing and natural remedies. The use of herbs and oils for healing purposes, mentioned in various biblical passages, parallels the Indian holistic approach to health and well-being. The shared appreciation for nature and the environment in both Indian and biblical traditions underscores a common spiritual outlook. The Bible's portrayal of God's creation as good and worthy of care aligns with the Indian reverence for nature as sacred and life-sustaining. The concept of pilgrimage, central to Indian spiritual practice, is also a significant theme in the Bible. The journeys to sacred sites, such as Jerusalem, reflect the universal human quest for spiritual fulfillment and connection with the divine. The role of women in both Indian and biblical narratives highlights the importance of female figures in shaping spiritual and cultural history. The stories of strong and virtuous women in the Bible resonate with the revered status of women in Indian epics and scriptures. The biblical vision of a future where nations live in peace and harmony aligns with the Indian ideal of global unity and peaceful coexistence. This shared aspiration reflects the universal longing for a world governed by justice, compassion, and mutual respect. The connection between Indian cuisine and biblical references to food and feasting showcases another cultural link. The Bible frequently mentions meals as acts of fellowship and celebration, akin to the rich culinary traditions of India, where food is often seen as a sacred offering. The tradition of storytelling, a vital part of Indian culture, resonates with the biblical narrative style. Both traditions use stories to convey moral lessons, spiritual truths, and cultural values, illustrating the power of narrative in shaping human understanding. In conclusion, while direct references to India in the Bible are limited, the indirect allusions and cultural exchanges reveal a deep and enduring connection. The shared values, trade interactions, and spiritual insights between India and the biblical world contribute to a richer understanding of both traditions, highlighting the timeless relevance of their teachings.